right, you ready to go?
Let's go.
Let's go. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the Frak This podcast. I am your no longer available on Prime host, Jesse Gender, and I am joined as always by...
The host mother.
I know.
You know what the funny thing about all that is?
Mm-hmm.
I found out about that from a comment on the episode that went up today.
Yeah.
That's how I was like, wait, what? And I went and checked. I'm like, son of a bitch. And what's really annoying is that, like, normally when something vanishes, something that, like, is a full set of a show, like movies, especially older movies, who the fuck knows? But, like, a full set of a show, if it goes off of one platform as being, like, included with the subscription, usually that means
it's going somewhere else.
It's gone somewhere else. And it fucking hasn't. It's just become, oh no, we have it, but now you have to buy it.
Yep, it's pain in the ass. Welcome to the streaming future. It's fucking great. I love it. Maybe it'll pop up somewhere. It's sometimes that happens where it goes off somewhere and then pops off somewhere. The weirdest one, the one that fucking pisses me off. I mean, there's so many shows that just go off and disappear. But the one that pissed me off the most was also Prime, which is The Expanse, which I love The Expanse, but the first 2 seasons just are randomly not on there anymore. Presumably because those are the ones made by the Sci-Fi Channel before Amazon picked it up. But it's so fucking weird that, like, Amazon bought it, but then they don't have the weird rights to the first 2 seasons of their own show.
It's funny because, like, by the time this comes out, the video will already be
I watched
live.
That one. I know which one.
And will have been live for a week. Like, this is infuriatingly common, and, like, I have no doubt that it's because you have executives who are like, don't spend $1 more than we have to. But fucking seriously, do you realize how much the value of what you've bought goes down when there's a whole swath of it you don't have? Because I talked about this in regards to Doctor Who. Because Disney's, like, shelled out who knows how much to, like, actually put money into the production and the marketing of Doctor Who and to have the brand new stuff. And the entire back catalog's on another fucking platform.
I know, which is wild. I mean, like, I kept being like, wait, it's not? I was, like, shocked when it happened because I was like, I was watching the specials with Erin, and I was like, we should go back and rewatch some of the older stuff because she had seen up to, like, some of David Tennant but hadn't gone. And then we was like, oh, it's not on Disney. I have to go on a Max, and we, like, had to figure that all out. I remember that being so fucking weird.
Yeah, and if you want to see classic, you have to go on BritBox or Tubi.
Yeah.
The only place where it's all in one spot is if you live in the UK. It's all on BBC iPlayer. But anywhere else, no. It's fucking carved up to hell. But again, I don't know how much it would have cost to buy out Max's contract for however much longer they have streaming the previous era. But it had to have been a fraction of what Disney's putting into the fucking production. Just pay it and have the whole thing.
I know, it's annoying. Well, listeners, if you didn't know, by the way, I don't even know if I gave context for this, but Battlestar Galactica is no longer available on Prime, so we're not encouraging anything, but yar. Excuse me, my throat.
Look, all I'm saying, mateys, is do what you gotta do.
Yes. How was your week, by the way?
Exhausting.
Yeah. I don't really care about that. I wanted you to ask me about how I was doing because I had a funny story this week.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to tell a fun story, and now I've revealed my intentions, and now I'm the asshole. It's fine. I went to a party at Titmouse this past weekend, which is Titmouse is the animation studio who makes a bunch of shows like Star Trek Lower Decks and like Vox Machina and a bunch of others. Really cool place, and I just have a friend because she worked on Star Trek Lower Decks, and I became friends with her. We went to the party, and it was a weird party. Because I had to sign a waiver to go, and the waiver was like, there will be blood, and, like, you may die. It turns out what it was like, I didn't get the party invite, because I just got the waiver. She's like, oh, come, here's the waiver. And I'm like, what is this waiver for? And I didn't see that there was, like, an official party invite that explained it. They do, like, theme parties. So this was one where there was, like, a cage where you, like, put on these white suits and you, like, hit each other with, like tubes and get blood all over yourself, like, fake blood all over you. It was fun. But it was like, what the hell am I signing up for?
This sounds like a kink party for weird rich people who got bored with sex 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And are just trying to find anything that sparks the slightest little bit
of
in
joy.
their flinty hearts.
Yeah. What was also funny too is that Titmouse, they had like their logo is like a bird, so they had a bird mascot that was just wandering the party or whatever. But then they also had like these weird costumes that looked like they were supposed to like those uglifications that you see like in SpongeBob, like the animation was like zooms in on their face and it's like super ugly, and it just was like that. It was like there was like mascots walking around that looked like that, like uglified versions of things. And I'm like, I love this party just being like weird Eldritch horror monsters just wandering randomly through the crowd. Like, no reason. They're just randomly wandering through the crowd. It was great.
Okay.
And then also, one other fun part of it, too, it happened twice, where I was in line to get a drink, and there was like people in line, and I just touched someone, I was like, hey, are you in line to get a drink? Turned around, and it was this girl and her boyfriend who I haven't seen since 2016. Like, I was literally like, we should get a coffee. And I looked at my phone. It's like, I haven't texted you since 2016. It was just randomly at this party. So it was a wild thing. But then also my fiance's childhood best friend was at the party, who I know. But then he just like was like wandering over, and he was just like, is that you? And I just see this man just staring at me, and I'm like, oh, hey. So then we both sent an image to my fiance with our fingers flicking her off.
That's love right there.
It is love. It is love. Anyways, it was just a fun story. The party was a good time.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. Got to see inside Titmouse. It was a good time. They have secret rooms that open up into Dungeons and Dragons places, like rooms.
See, you should have stopped at just the dungeons. I don't need the dragons in that situation.
Just the dungeons. They got a lot of dungeons in there. Well, it was a good day I think it was celebrating Titmouse Day. And speaking of Titmouse Day, we're talking about the Battlestar Galactica episode Colonial Day. I actually don't know if it was Titmouse Day. It was just for a dumb transition.
I can never. I know the titmouse is a bird, but I can never help but snicker at it.
It's funny. I mean, that's why they named it that. I'm sure, because it was funny.
No doubt.
Yeah. Anyways, let us read some comments from 2 episodes ago. Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, the episode where Ellen Ty is officially introduced. We have the Bitter Fig 9903 says, Jesse's phrasing here, Ellen Ty, we'll get more of her in a second. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Perhaps too much.
Yeah. We have One Squirrel says, I've never seen the show, but I love this podcast. The chemistry between you two as hosts keeps me coming back.
Aww.
Oh, that's sucking up in the way that I appreciate.
Keep sucking. We love it.
Let's see. Wait, there's one. Oh gosh, there was one comment here that I need to find again that it was really interesting that I oh my gosh, where did it go? I am sorry, Vera. 1 second.
Wow. Speaking of sucking.
Yeah, speaking of sucking. Yes.
No, you right now.
Me?
You suck.
Oh! I thought this was gonna be a sex thing.
No, you just suck.
Where did this comment go? There was a really good comment about, oh, here it is. This is where it was. Romler, who keeps coming in. Romler keeps having the best comments. I just want to keep reading them. During the miniseries, it wasn't intended that Ty's wife would ever be an actual on-screen character, so they just used a picture of a random crew member. After casting Kate Vernon as Ellen in this episode, its previously on sequence actually replaces that shot with a picture of Vernon. These are previous lies. That's interesting. That's kind of fun. I enjoy that. I think I've seen that in a couple of things randomly here and there where they've done previously on retro. What do you call
Retcon.
it? Retcons. Thank you. I know words. Good.
Wow. You are on a roll
tired.
Tonight.
I am tired. Shut up. I hate you so much, Vera. Love you.
Love you too.
Last one here. This is from R. Senel says, if Cylon's junk glows during sex, that kind of puts oral out of the question. I love how Jesse just name drops Peter David, who I know from the Grey Hulk saga and Aquaman comics. He also wrote some good Star Trek comics, too. At the beginning, Jesse talks about coming up with an idea and then reading someone already had this idea. 20 years ago, I came up with on my own the idea of universal basic income, only to find out the idea has been floating around for decades already. I feel her pain.
I mean, that's an idea worth having over and over and over again.
Yes.
And so, like, the first thing I knew Peter David from is Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah, he did that as well.
Yep.
I just know him from Star Trek shit.
Of course you do. You fucking nerd.
Mm-hmm. And he wrote some Babylon 5 books. So, yeah. He's done stuff.
You're not beating the nerd allegations right now.
No, I wasn't trying to. I usually wasn't trying to. All right. Anything else to say, Vera, on all of that?
Reminder, if you're going to put anything in the comments that is even vaguely a spoiler, please put in all caps at the start of your comment, spoilers.
Like Uncle Gumbald said, by the way.
Yeah, like I had somebody who said something that maybe it's something, maybe it isn't. Sure as fuck looked like one. So,
Yeah, sorry.
And like, they weren't being a jerk, so they didn't do it on purpose. But like, reminder,
yes, please.
It is on my channel. I do see the comments. Fucking mark it, and I'll avoid it.
Yes, I read all the comments up until, like, I don't read them if you're leaving a comment like 2 or 3 weeks after the episode goes live. I haven't read it, but within the first day or two, I do try to tend to read the comments. So I will read it if you leave some spoilers, but please give a mark for Vera. So, yes. All right, let us get into our recap of this episode. We start off on Cloud 9, a luxury liner that is somewhat similar to, I forget the name of the ship from the miniseries, but it's somewhat similar to the ship from the miniseries, which we see was like a vacation spot for people where they could go, and it was like an artificial environment in space. This is much more clearly a ship that is like meant to be outside and such. So
yeah, like and I immediately hate this ship and everyone on it.
Really?
Like, you all burn in hell. Fuck all y'all. This is the last remnants of humanity. And like, I understand that you didn't like go out of your way to secure a luxury cruise liner. I get that you guys just had whatever you had. I'm not blaming it for existing, but the fact that it's being maintained as a fucking luxury vessel, and we're about to meet 3 of the worst fucking journalists in fiction.
Yes, we'll get to them in a second, but I did want to know, and this will become somewhat of a textual thing later on, but even then I was like, there's a moment where like Starbuck and Lee are playing with water on this thing, and I'm like, wasn't there a whole episode a few episodes ago where they were like talking about water, and yet we're like wasting water maintaining this like curated grass, like not even like plants that are like giving oxygen or some shit. It's just
decorative
a lawn.
Fucking grass, like most grass on most lawns in this fucking country.
Yeah,
like, look, if you have a nice lawn, that's great. Don't water your fucking lawn. If you have to water it to maintain it, it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, and especially if you're wasting water, which is a precious resource, as we clearly fucking see in this show. It was.
I may have stepped outside the show and was yelling at the people in our reality, but yes, sure, in the show too.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I haven't had a lawn in a while, so whatever. I'm not gonna be an old man yelling, "Get off my lawn!"
I have a lawn, but I don't water it. I live in an area where I don't have to. And I'm sorry, if you live in an area where the only way to maintain a lawn is through wasting a shit ton of water, live without a lawn or move somewhere else.
Tell that to Los Angeles.
I have been for decades. It's like
I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's like the number one reason I could never live there. I look at the way people live there and I look around and go, this is supposed to be a fucking desert. You're all monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I understand many people are there in living situations where it's not really their choice or their whatever, it's not their fault. But like the basic infrastructure of Los Angeles, fuck all y'all.
Well, I remember, I mean, you visited the place I lived at last time, not where I'm at now, where I was in San Diego, and that was like, I didn't own the place. We were renting it, but it did have that manicured front lawn that was like maintained by the HOA or whatever. So.
Yeah, and fuck HOAs too.
Oh, believe me, fuck HOAs as well. I agree on that front. On all the fronts, I don't disagree with anything that's been said. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, luxury liner, the waste of water. We meet 3 reporters for the which I forget the name of the show, but they were like, they have a new show. They're 3 journalists from the before times. And they're talking about how there's going to be a quorum for Colonial Day that Rosalind is putting together.
Before they even get to that, the fucking first one who's talking, like, here with the only other 2 legitimate journalists left. And this is why I immediately hate these people.
Oh yeah, no, they're shit. I hate them. They're legitimately like the Fox News talking heads, not even like the CNN talking heads, like just very bland, whatever bullshit.
Oh god,
people.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Basically, they give like a couple different opinions. Like the main guy says, "Oh, this is gonna be a puppet quorum. Like, you know, they're just gonna rubber stamp everything that Rosalind says, and that she's a power mad school teacher." The other one sort of argues, like, "What? Half the quorum hasn't been selected. How can you say this?" Like, things like that.
Well, one of them immediately goes, "Oh, you know, she's just doing whatever Wallace Gray says," and I immediately wrote down, "Who the fuck is Wallace Gray?"
Yeah,
and like. We'll find out in a minute, but I do kind of want to cite, like, you couldn't have seated this guy at least once in an episode prior to this? He just comes out of fucking nowhere?
Yeah, he's just a random, like, Joe Biden motherfucker just appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, having somebody fulfill the role he's filling, sure, but, like, did you not realize you were going to need this guy? Because...
Yeah.
That's the only way I can think of is they literally got to writing this episode and were like, shit.
We need a dude.
We need to just make one up because we don't have one. Because
we need
if there was any planning going, like, this dude should have been seated a while back.
Yeah. And he's Blandy McBlanderson politician. Again, I use Joe Biden because, like, he's like bland milquetoast man politician. But yes, we do cut over to Rosalind. Who is sort of listening to all this and is complaining about freedom of the press. And Wally comes in, as he's called by her.
Yeah.
And he's like
everyone's favorite character, Wallace Gray.
Yeah. Who's just like apparently a politician who's just been around the block for a while and knows her from the before times.
Yeah. He's the stuffed shirt.
Yes. And yeah, there's a couple lines here where it's like, "Oh, next they'll be calling me a fascist." And she's like, "No, you'll be the gas bag. I'll be the fascist," Rosalind says. And then we then learn that Tom Zarek is possibly has been gathering a following, as they sort of start speculating on there. I do like at least that they mentioned that, like, there was an attempted rape on his ship of Callie. Like, at least there's an acknowledgement of that and what it was.
Yep.
So I do appreciate that. And then Adama, we then learn that Zarek has been elected the voice of the PyCon delegation.
No, Sagittarian.
Sagittarian. Sorry, I was looking at PyCon here. Sorry, Sagittarian. Excuse me. I did a little racism. It's fine.
They're all the same.
Yeah, PyCon, Sagittarians. Who gives a shit? They all look the same to me. Don't cancel me, please.
What,
Anyways,
again?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Like, how many times have you been canceled now? Come on.
Oh, so many. Anyways, we then have Adama calling Rosalind saying, I can't allow a terrorist to sit in government. I can bar him from traveling to Cloud9. And Rosalind points out, I can't have it looking to be like you're my goon squad. We have to let this play out. And Zarek comes on and gives sort of a speech saying, Rosalind and Confederates will no longer be able to ignore us. I'm the voice of the poor. A new era is about to dawn.
Yep. And, like, she's right. No matter what you think of this dude, like, you can't just go, no.
Here, let me use the military to just send him away. Yeah,
Mr. Duly elected, whatever the hell the position is.
Quorum delegate, I think is the title.
Like, no, you cannot participate. That's not going to go over well.
Yeah. Nope. She's at least somewhat smarter about. I mean, it speaks to the military versus politics thing, right? It was like he's just like, I can fix the problem, and she's like, no, that's not how politics works.
Yeah, no.
So. We then cut to Starbuck after the opening credits going to see Baltar and basically tells him that he has been elected the Caprica delegate for the Quorum of 12.
Okay. How the fuck are these delegates voted for? Who is voting for them? And how the hell do you get elected if you don't run? How the fuck does this system work?
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm serious. Because, if you're... The fact that she can walk in and surprise him with the fact that he's the delegate tells me one of two things, both of which are fucking insane. One is, only 20 people have the vote. Mm-hmm. And you could just ask a group, hey, what do we, asking, what are we feeling for dinner tonight? Everybody feeling Baltar? Baltar? Yeah, Baltar.
Yeah, Baltar, yeah.
Or, if that's not what it is, and he didn't run, is it just a fully open vote every time? You just write down whoever the fuck you happen to know?
Assumption, yeah. My assumption in how it works, and this isn't explicitly stated, it's my guess, it's how it works, and I wish they had actually made it a point, because it actually would have gone to Tom Zarek's point later on. But my assumption is that everyone from those colonies, votes for a representative, and they can just pick fucking anyone. And I guess they just pick probably, it's at that point, it's just a popularity contest,
that's batshit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we have a great system, but at the very least, knowing for sure that somebody wants the position, you'd think would be the base level you start at.
And this is where, I'll just say this here because we're already bringing it up. It goes to Tom Zarek will make a later point about how people are just rolling along with the system. I wish they had interrogated this more, because it would have been why are we still holding to the colonies? We should go by ship delegations. That would make more sense. And also, two, if this, presumably, maybe in the past, this show should have articulated this, in the past, maybe people did have to run for the quorum delegate, but here they just said, fuck it, we don't have time, just, put it on into the system, and, the breakdown of the system just for popularity. These are things that I think if you had expressed this, would have actually gone to Tom Zarek's point later on in a much more, demonstrable way, rather than just sort of, some offhanded stuff that he says.
Yeah, no, it also wouldn't have really taken me out of the show, because I'm going, wait a minute! I'm sure they're trying to play it off for, a little bit for humor, but I'm just left wondering, what kind of system allows you to surprise a dude by walking and going, hey, you were elected? That notion is bonkers to me.
Yeah, and able to, eventually, as we see, pick vice presidents and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's wild. And yeah, Baltar initially seems like he doesn't want to do this, but then Head 6 points out, there'll be parties of women drawn to men with power, and that seems to get him excited about it.
Fucking horn dog.
Always going with his penis. So, anyways, we then cut over to Apollo and Starbuck arriving at Cloud9. And this is where we kind of get the little bit more reveal of how Cloud9 works. It's a fake sun. There's the horizon's sort of faked as well. But they're running the security. And, they're both kind of uncomfortable. There's thousands of places to hide. Something I forgot to mention during the opening of the episode that we did see, and I should have mentioned this, we did see a faceless guy, we don't see his face, putting a gun within a briefcase earlier on. So we know that someone's trying to sneak a gun onto Cloud9.
Yep.
But yeah, they have a little bit of a political conversation where, Starbuck's asking why Rosalind's letting so many people come, and Apollo, ever the sort of believer in the system, says Rosalind's trying to let people see how government works, by doing it out in the open. And Starbuck basically points out, so she's clearly already running for re-election, the sort of more cynical, politically savvy one.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, which I kind of liked. And then they play with the hose, and I'm like, what a waste of fucking water that you yourself almost died for, Starbuck.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. These two are kind of dipshits this episode. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. There's one moment I do like later on, but yeah. So, anyways, we then see Quorum members arrive, and the man with the aforementioned briefcase is also there, as we can see. Ty and Ellen are there, and Ty is putting on a face and clearly hates this. And then another guy, just a random dude in the crowd, not the guy with the briefcase, starts yelling at Zarek, who walks by, calling him a murderer and everything. And then a further dude, who I'm just gonna call the Sagittarian tough guy sort of man, starts standing up for Zarek, saying hey, he's a freedom fighter, and he starts trying to rough that dude up who was yelling at Zarek. And Apollo stops him, saying, you have a right to be here, but it doesn't extend to roughing people up.
Yep.
I have feelings about this, but
so I'm just gonna say in general, when it comes to the topic of Zarek, they need to tread really carefully with him, between the way he is characterized and the ideas he is putting forth, because it has not crossed over into this yet, but it is already kind of dancing with the whole Marvel issue of basically denigrating a set of ideas by only showing people who go about it the wrong way.
Yes, agreed. That was my issue with this too. And also, this guy who will come back later, this sort of guy who's roughing people up, he's clearly a member of Sagittarian, who we've already acknowledged are a exploited colony, presumably, by the rest of the colonies. And he's sort of shown to be the sort of roughing people up and being Zarek stood up for us, and he's shown up to be the asshole. And then the other thing that's repeated, there's just a presumption this entire episode that Zarek's a bad guy and out for himself, but the show never we got hints of him being kind of self-affirming in the episode he appeared in previously, but this episode never makes a point of he's out for himself. It never makes that clear. And even that previous episode was sure, he's got an ego, but he wasn't wrong necessarily. Yeah, Rosalind also has an ego too, to a degree sometimes.
The show so far is really kind of, the narratively seems to want to take the side of the people who are against Zarek, but they're also not actually properly demonizing him, which good for some of the ideas he's representing. I'd rather you didn't, but at the same time, it's you're making me dislike the characters I'm supposed to like because they're going, oh, he's a terrorist, oh, he's that. Okay, I get it, that's all backstory, but for an audience, what we have is what we've actually seen him do. And what we saw him do was take somewhat violent means to a overall principled stance. The way that panned out at the end of that episode where he took over that ship showed that while he had not expected to get what he was asking for, when he had the chance, he did still go for it. It wasn't just about going out in a blaze of glory like freaking Apollo thought it was. That was one of the things I really liked about that episode, that he was right about what Zarek wanted, but wrong about why he wanted it. And Apollo and everybody else seems to have not done any reassessment of Zarek with the knowledge coming out of that situation.
Yeah, that's what bothers me the most, because Apollo's the one that sort of constantly has this assumption he's a bad guy, I don't trust him, and I'm really? You seemed last episode to you even said you read his book and had a principled stance, and he revealed to you that he wasn't just going out in a blaze of glory. So for everything, you should have, based on that episode, you should have at least a nuanced opinion of him, rather than even if the nuanced opinion is yeah, he's a bit got a bit of an ego and maybe he kind of wants the attention, but he does have some principles. You know what I mean?
Even if you're gonna have Apollo take the position of he hurt other people and people who I know who are friends of mine, and he's just holding a grudge, fine, but at least own that's what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, but we never really interrogated that. It's sort of like
No.
Zarek's a bad guy is kind of just the underlying assumption that we're supposed to take because the main characters that we like do, but I don't.
Yeah, I think it is my biggest disappointment is with Apollo because like I get why Rosalind and Adama feel the way that they do because from their military and political perspectives, respectfully, he is just a liability and a disruption, which is something neither of them need. So from their perspective, I get it. Apollo, it's disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what Apollo is really the big problem. So
yeah,
even Starbuck I would buy too, Herbie, because he's sort of like, yeah, I don't really give a shit about the nuance. Like he seems like a terrorist dude. Fuck it, he's a terrorist dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like her only interaction with the guy was trying to shoot him in the head. So.
Yeah. Which, like, again, goes to her. Like, she's a military person. She's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. She sort of sees things in straightforward ways. So, which is a problem. It's not something that the show should take as fine, necessarily, but it fits who she would be. So.
Yeah. And, like, before anybody leaves the comment, I get the idea that Apollo's interactions with Zarek kind of disillusioned him from the idea he had of this man in his head.
Mm.
But given what his actual experience was, it still feels like a downgrade of Apollo's character for him to like just basically ball the guy up and throw him in the wastebasket. Like again, if it's just a grudge, that's fine, but it's never presented like that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, especially since Apollo kind of has that sort of like youthful, naive optimism in the system, like wide-eyed, like the system can work kind of like like the ideal view of what the system is kind of how his character is presented.
Yeah.
And so it feels like he should be the person that's arguing like, hey, I don't really like Zarek, but he deserves, like he got elected. He deserves to have a voice here. Like that should be more his perspective. It feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. All right. We then cut to, Ty and Ellen shaking hands of the delegates, and Tom Zarek goes up to shake Ty's hands, and Ty very clearly does not shake it. But then Ellen does.
Little shit stirrer Ellen.
Yes, she does. Yep. Yes, she is. So she's just stirring shit, and she says to Ty, I hope to see him again. And, Ty's sort of like, why'd you do that? And she says, look, I get our picture on every newspaper. She's clearly doing it for the attention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she even says, Zarek's the future. Even a blind man can see that. So she's putting her sort of lot in with him. And then we cut over to Rosalind meeting with Zarek, and Zarek asks her, in front of the press, it should be noted, if I offer my hand in friendship, will you take it? And she says, there's one way to find out. He offers it, and she takes his hand and then goes in for like a hug sort of thing.
Well, like she kisses his cheeks, which caught me a little off guard.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was a politically calculated move.
I get that. I guess it just seemed, I guess it's going to be a weird way to put it. It seemed like a weirdly feminized gesture.
I could see it, I guess. I don't necessarily see it as feminized. I do see it as heterosexual in the sense that, like, I could see someone like, a Joe Biden, for example, doing that to a woman, which would have different implications than a woman doing to a man just in our patriarchal society, just to be clear. But I could see a male politician doing that to a woman politician, and I see it, like, as a woman politician doing it to a guy. I don't see within this show that's reflecting our culture, a woman politician necessarily doing that to a woman politician or a man doing it to a man. So I don't necessarily see it as a feminized one. I see it as like a heterosexual one.
Oh, fair enough.
If I'm going to parse the point, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he does point out, like, he notices that, like, it was a politically calculated move. He says, nicely done. And he says to her, I'm not your enemy, Madam President. Which, again, kind of still colors Zarek as, like, not overtly evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, we'll get to some of his points in a little bit, but, like, he does want to tear this system down.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily because he holds ill will towards the people currently running it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, it's weird because the character, at least presently, is being presented with a nuance that almost feels like it's in a bubble and nobody around him and not too much of the narrative framing realizes how nuanced he is.
Yeah. It's like he's written well, just the narrative framing around him doesn't seem to understand that.
Yeah, it's weird, which is why I'm nervous. Like, if the framing didn't feel off, I would just kind of take on faith that, like, oh, he's going to be a really interesting, nuanced character. But the fact that the framing is depicting him this way makes me really worried. Like, you're gonna tick me off with how you handle him later, aren't you? And to be clear, right now it's just a vibes are off thing. And maybe it'll settle, maybe it'll be fine.
Well, here's the two options that I think we have, and I'm going to be very frank. Like, this isn't of a spoiler minute thing. Like, I remember the plot beats that happen with this character, but I honestly don't remember how the show frames them. And the two options it feels like it could go is we have a Jakar situation here, which for those who don't know, and I kind of did this in a recent video on my channel, without spoiling too much, Babylon 5 begins in season 1 with the character of Jakar, sort of who is part of an oppressed group who's been recovering from it being colonized. He's kind of framed as the narrative villain for season 1 in a way that sort of displays him as kind of unnuanced. There's even episodes where Vera and I were watching it, and I knew this was coming, but Vera didn't. We're like, he actually is making a great point, but the episode's framing him as bad. But then the show kind of goes to show, like, oh, that framing of you seeing Jakar as the bad guy, it wanted to interrogate that assumption. Like, it gave you that framing because that's the way that we frame people like that, and then it ended up interrogating and deepening his character as the show went along. And sort of critiquing that its own framing, which is something that could happen here with Zarek, or it could just take it as read and be like, oh no, he's the bad guy. And I remember the plot beats that happen with Zarek that I won't spoil, but I earnestly don't remember how nuanced the show gets with him.
I'm right now I'm nervous because, like, you're right. It has the opportunity to go the Jakar route of really giving a whole bunch of shape and shading and fully form this character into a really complex, figure, or it could cheapen the nuance they've already got. I don't really see it continuing to ride the line. It's going to tip one way or the other eventually.
And we shall see. And I just being completely frank, I do not remember. So, yeah, I know the plot beats it does, but I don't remember how it goes with this frame.
So I guess shout out to the actor again. Yes, because he is playing it with all the nuance that is on the page. It's just the framing of the other characters and the overall meta framing of the scenes. Like, again, just vibes are off.
Well, we then cut over to Roslyn, sort of in the quorum in this big sort of amphitheater, giving a speech. Baltar's half asleep. Head 6 sort of tries to get his attention by saying, hey, you're missing an intriguing opportunity here, and forcing him to look at one of the other delegates who is not wearing any underwear.
Oh, no. That is not a delegate. That is one of the reporters.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. And then they have this conversation where Head 6 says, love isn't about sex. And Baltar says, oh, that's enlightened of you. And she says, you can have any woman you want as long as you remember that I have your heart. And of course, I can always rip it out of your chest if I need to.
Yeah. So it's sort of the toxic swinger perspective, you know. I don't care who you're out with at night as long as you come home to me at the end.
Pretty much. Which, Baltar sort of takes as like, yay, cool, awesome.
Because of course he would.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Let's be real clear. Baltar would be a disaster in a polyamorous relationship, but he's also the exact guy who's like, maybe we should have an open relationship. Oh God, you're the fucking worst.
Yep. Well, during all this discussion, Zarek has an objection. He says, I think your agenda is very important. I acknowledge that it's very important, but the most critical issue is nowhere to be found, the election of a vice president. We have no designated successor, and if you get killed, that leaves this wide open for a military dictatorship, which he's right about, by the way. Clearly, it's a power. It's a move to get him to be vice president, but he's not wrong.
Again, there's a lot of nuance to what he's doing, because is he trying to take advantage of this thing he's pointing out? Yes. Is he manufacturing a problem that didn't exist? No. He's right. There is not a chain of succession right now.
Yeah, and also, given the circumstances are under, that it's very real that she could die. And also, like, he's playing the politician game of being like, hey, Rosalind, I think your agenda is very good. I'm not disparaging you or your agenda, but I think we need to talk. Like, he's playing that game of, like, not being overtly villainous to her, you know?
Yeah, it's like, this is all well and good, but you missed something.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then Head Six sort of kicks Baltar to second the motion, which Baltar does. Rosalind gives him a dead eye stare, which I did enjoy.
Yeah, and because she doesn't even kick, she actually grabs his arm and raises it for him.
Yeah, Head Six does.
Yeah, and he's like second, and then I was like, oh, okay. And she gives him the death glare, and then he gets on the mic, and it's like, oh God, don't try and explain yourself, dude. And he gets up there and he's like, for reasons that are so obvious, I won't go into them. Brilliant.
Yeah.
This fucking guy.
Vergon nominates Zarek because they said, oh, hey, well, Zarek helped us with our air filtration system while Rosalind was still waiting to take the call. And Gemnon also seconds it. And then they have 72 hours for nominations to happen.
Now these elections, I understand because it's the delegates who are going to vote on the vice president. So this set of elections, I understand. Yes. I still don't understand how the fuck the delegates got there, but hey.
Yeah. Rosalind then back on Colonial 1 says, Zarek is not going to be my vice president. And they sort of talk about, like, the reasons for why people voted for it. Like, oh, she wanted more ration. Like, one of the Gemnon delegate wanted more rations, et cetera. But yeah, Apollo mentions he's still worried about security, but Rosalind's more focused on, we need a candidate who will win support. We need an established name. And she looks at good old Wally, the guy with the established name that we definitely heard of before. And he says, I don't want to do it, but you got me. I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. This everyone's favorite character.
Wally. Hey, it's Wally. Yeah. The Joseph Biden of politics, the vanilla ice cream of politics. Anyways, we have an interview with Zarek where he's sort of walking around the ship, the Cloud9, and he's sort of giving an interview expressing his political views, and he's sort of saying we need a new way of thinking. And someone jokes, says, like blowing up a building or two, which he shakes off and says, no, pointing out there's no economy right now. We're held hostage by the idea of old ways of thinking. And he points to this gardener and he says, why is this guy gardening right now? He has labor, but no benefits. We're just going through the motions of our old lives. Lawyers are acting like lawyers. People are doing this. It's all just a fantasy. We need to think about community, not the individual, and work as a collective.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, all this sounds great. And it's a good point.
Lawyers are acting like lawyers when they have no clients. Businessmen are acting like businessmen when they have no businesses. Like,
yeah.
He is absolutely right. Now,
and he's pointing out like this guy's laboring for no benefit too, which is also a great point.
Now, what I will grant, and like the one possible way this show could thread this needle, is that so far, at least in terms of what we as the audience are being shown, he is being vague about what he intends to replace the system with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just this general sense of collective, which is vague. But that having been said, the overall point that, like, we still act like capitalism matters, and we are in a situation right now where money has zero meaning, but we still have all these mechanisms in place. Like, he's right. He's 100% right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, he is. Which is why I'm hopefully leaning towards, like, these are good points, and I think that the show knows that at least. So hopefully this will get addressed. I don't remember again, but hopefully it does. We'll see. So
yeah.
But yeah, Apollo's sitting at the bar, and he sort of has this offhanded thing. He just wants power, and he asks that the like radio be turned off. But then the Zarek reporter from before, along with a friend of his who just happens to be there, starts getting up in his face The guy with the briefcase that has the gun in it that we sort of been alluding to throughout the episode is also at the bar, who just happens to be there.
Yeah, and also like it's just some fucking guy.
Yeah.
Which makes it weird that during the opening scene, it's like, ooh, somebody's packing up a gun into the suitcase, and we won't show his face. Like, it's just some fucking guy.
Yeah, that was one of my friends. When I was in film school, I had a friend of mine who was like, that's my favorite, or my least favorite fucking trope of all time, where you like build up, like, ooh, what's this guy's face gonna look like? What is he like? And then you just see it, and it's just a guy. Like, his example of this was the Fire Lord Ozai from Avatar, which I disagreed with slightly because it's like, oh, he has a menacing presence, we don't see his face, is kind of cool. But his big point was like, ooh, we don't see his face ever, and Len all of a sudden is just, oh yeah, he's a guy with a face, that's for sure.
I mean, like, what's funny is like with that example, you can feel like let down for all the buildup. But then there's something like this, like, it's just one episode of a TV show. If you don't show me somebody's face, I assume that like there's a twist or somebody we've seen before, and it's not. So what were you doing? Yeah. I thought it was gonna be Wally or something, everybody's favorite character that we all knew.
Yeah, like, gotta love Wally. Fuck? Yeah, or no, it turns out to be the kid from what's his face from earlier on the season that we just
the Boxy.
Boxy, it's Boxy.
What a great way to bring back Boxy, would-be assassin. Oh. Ronald D. Moore, you messed up.
You did. We should have written this show, Vera. It should have been you and me. Anyways, basically it's kind of a stereotypical scene. The Zarek supporter gets up in Apollo's face. They start a barroom brawl. Starbuck steps in to help out and be the sort of wingman in the fight to the other guy. But during the fight, the Valance is the guy's name, the guy who had the gun. His briefcase gets knocked and the gun gets revealed, which Starbuck sees, and she's able to sort of like grab the gun and stop the guy. Yeah. From getting away.
Can't we just talk for a second about how contrived the Sagittarian guy like starting a bar fight is? Mm-hmm. Because like, look, on the one hand, Apollo is being a dickhead. Like he is. He is being needlessly aggressive towards this guy. He seems to be trying to pull rank on somebody who isn't in the military, so I don't know what he thinks this is gonna do. But he's like, no, I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to hear from this guy. And Apollo's also drinking. That's made explicitly clear. But like when this other guy, it just goes like, "Hey man, I don't want any trouble." Then all of a sudden flips his bottle around.
I know.
And goes to me like, what is it that you think you're going to accomplish? It feels like the random assholes that got thrown into the 70s Incredible Hulk TV show because they needed an excuse for him to Hulk out every episode. And if there wasn't a reason within story, they just have a random asshole show up to push him around. That's what this guy feels like.
Yeah, I was actually at the point where I was like, when he says initially, he's like, hey, I don't want any trouble. I was like, and I thought he was legitimately about to walk away. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they're showing some nuance that like maybe Apollo's the dickhead. And I was like actually kind of enjoying that. It's like, oh, Apollo's being a jerk. And then he turns around and smacks Apollo in the face like, oh, no, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. Like, yeah. This is a moment that feels reverse engineered. Like we need to have there be a scuffle so that the briefcase gets knocked over. But we don't want Apollo to be that much of an asshole, so we have to have this other guy randomly start a bar fight.
Yep. Don't like it.
It's a bit of a mess.
We then cut to everyone's favorite storyline on Caprica. It's 47 days on Caprica, and it's Hilo and Tumor. And they're looking out at the basically the spaceport that they want to try and get a ship on. But Hilo's also starting to talk through how he saw the 6 that he saw earlier who had gotten killed.
Implying that he never brought it up in however many days it's been since the last time we checked in on them.
Yep, exactly.
It's been a fucking month and a half, and he's only just... God damn, man, I hate this. I hate this so much. And it's not because it's a bad plot, but like, holy fuck, this is paced like
it's
molasses.
Stretched out really. So bad. Yeah.
Flows like a river of bricks.
Yeah. But yeah, he sort of basically works out. It's like, nah, I think maybe they have Cylon DNA. Maybe they replicated Cylons are fucking with human DNA. I guess they replicated humans, and maybe that's how they laid the groundwork for the attack. He basically figures it out that like Cylons look like humans now.
Yes.
And Tumor basically kind of seems clearly perturbed by this, and she tries to say, well, maybe it's so overt. Like she's just like, yeah, but maybe they're capable of love. Maybe they maybe they have feelings too. And Hilo's like, nah, they killed innocent people. They gotta be Frak and Cylons. And it clearly bothers too. It's just like so over. I'm trying to exactly explain what I mean here. It's like it's so.
Well,
like I get her expressing this point of like, obviously as a Cylon herself, she is a bit concerned about like Hilo just being like, oh fuck all these Cylons, because she has feelings for him. But it's so overt. It's like, yeah, but maybe they feel love. Like it's so weird.
Like especially because it's not really relevant to the topic at hand. He's like,
yeah,
oh, but like they're like cloning us. They can be a ton. They can look just like us. Yeah, but maybe they have feelings. What the fuck are you talking about? It's
like, maybe, but I'm not here for a philosophical debate right now. I'm trying to figure out like, yeah,
and not to mention the fact that lady, you're running from them too. What the hell are you like? Could you have said anything that like? Clearly, this guy does not stop and think for 2 seconds, obviously. Otherwise, there are conversations that would have happened between the scenes we see, and that is demonstrably not true. So, clearly, not the sharpest tool in the toolbox, but, like, it feels like such a complete giveaway for her to like suggest this notion when, at least as far as her cover story is concerned, you're running for your life from them too, and now you're soft defending them. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
God, she sucks. She sucks as an infiltration unit. See, that now it makes total sense why Boomer believes that she is human, because this is one of the things I said very early on. I think the reason that they do this is to make them better sleeper agents, because then they don't have to fake anything. And if Tumor and Boomer are built out the same template, this is proof positive that she sucks at this when she's fully aware that she's lying. So no wonder they have to have her have this whole false memory and think she's a human being, because she's so bad at it otherwise.
Yeah. I will just ask a question. Okay. Did you notice anything else in this scene?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
If you didn't, that's fine. I'm just saying if you did. It's a thing that happened in the scene that if I draw attention to it makes it obvious. I'm just asking.
No, because peek behind the curtain, I was running behind by the time I started it. I had this going at 1.5 speed. So no, I didn't notice.
Fair enough. Okay, that's okay. It's again, you say you're feeling I'm not trying to fuck with you. Like the show is not drawing attention to this plot beat, but it is something that I know the show is clearly implying in a few things.
So help me if she's pregnant.
I'm not saying anything.
I'm gonna lose my shit.
I'm not saying anything.
Ugh.
Anyways, we then cut to where are we at? Starbuck and Apollo are interrogating Valance, the guy who had the gun. And they're basically playing both bad cop.
Yeah, no, I wrote down bad cop and worse cop.
Yeah. It's like, they basically learned like he went through a lot of effort to get the weapon on board. It's like made of ceramic so it doesn't throw off a metal detector. And he's saying, oh, Grimes gave you up. This other guy gave you up, which is weird to me. Because, like, that seems to unsettle Valance. And Grimes, I believe, is the guy who was beating up Apollo, who played as just him just happening to be there.
Yeah, there's no indication that these two knew anything about each other.
And if they did, then why would the guy start a fucking bar fight that might expose his friend?
Yeah, there's holes in this whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah, basically they point out this isn't a trial. It's you and us in this room. You don't have any due process. This is your courtroom. We're your executioner, and we shoot traitors. That's what we do for the traitors. And he basically just like
that's what we do at this El Salvador prison. Oh wait, sorry.
Which is again where I'm like, I'm hoping that the show is leaning towards being critical of these things, right? Because like clearly this is shown to be too far. The show is not being critical of it in this episode, but it is a bad thing that the show has been critical of elsewhere. So it's sort of like,
but like the fact that it's never really going to get addressed in this episode, and it makes me worried that the show is going to get Jack Bauer mentality when dealing with storylines involving Zarek.
We'll see. I honestly don't remember.
I'm a little bit worried about it because, like, again, there's nothing wrong with the way it's being played, but there's something about the fact that it's never interrogated and never questioned and just played straight like this is okay. And again,
it's one of those like, is it a car? I'm wondering if it's a car framing or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like again, it's not like it's being framed heroically as a good thing, but it's also not really being addressed or viewed as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also could be. So actually, the better comparison is this Jakar syndrome, or is this a Garibaldi syndrome? You know what I mean?
Oh shit. Okay, yeah. So you gave context for Jakar. Yeah. I'll give context for Garibaldi because fucking Garibaldi. Garibaldi was the head of security on Babylon 5, and the amazing thing, like this was incredible. Garibaldi as a character might be one of the best demonstrations that I've seen, and certainly anything from the 90s. Of showing the ways in which those with police or police type power abuse their position, abuse their privilege, make use of violence in the name of quote unquote security when they are often doing it to satisfy their own desires, their own vengeance, their own all this stuff. It is actually a really good dissection of everything wrong with policing, except the show doesn't realize it's doing that and it thinks Garibaldi's a good guy.
Yeah. It's like the framing is perfect, and yet Garibaldi's like, he's fine. He's just a pal, you know?
Yeah.
And the show is willing to even critique policing as a system to a degree. Like, they show how they build up fascists later on in the series, but only to a point, you know what I mean?
But only to a point, and only when he's not around.
Yeah. It's like cops generally can be bad, but Garibaldi's good, even though he's also a cop and displays the exact problems.
Yeah.
It's
like
very
the
confusing.
degree to which Garibaldi habitually abuses his power so fucking casually, and the show never interrogates it.
Yes. So it's like, do we have a Jakar moment here with this episode, or is this a Garibaldi moment? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
So far,
could go either way. Oh God, Garibaldi. Thinking back on him, that was incredible. Like that would be the number one thing at the top, because it's been rumored forever that J. Michael Straczynski, who was the creator of Babylon 5, wants to do a remake or a reboot or something like that. Like, number one item on that list for me is realize what you had with Garibaldi and actually interrogate it.
Yeah.
Don't change
do
it.
Do him perfectly like that. Just interrogate it more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, we'll see if the show follows the same route. But then we cut to I skipped ahead here. We cut to Apollo and Rosalind talking, and he sort of points out like he can't tie Valance to Zarek. And we can't send the Sagittarians back because, like, Apollo says we can send them away, but then he's like, we can't. And Rosalind points out we can't send the Sagittarians back because it would void their civil rights. But she says, I'm not going to let him win. And then she says, bug his room, do whatever you need to shut him down. So she is violating his civil rights, just not in a politically unsavvy way.
Yes. Well, she's violating his specific civil rights, but where she drew the line was because the suggestion was to eject every single Sagittarian, since they were the ones who also started the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, I'm not going to violate the civil rights of this entire group of people. I will of this one dude, though.
Yeah.
Which, like, the thing is, that's actually an interesting
distinction.
An interesting distinction, an interesting nuance. And I'm not going to say that she's doing the right thing. I don't really think that she is. But I do think that is an interesting distinction because of how often people in positions like hers are depicted all one way or all the other. Like her finding this middle road of like, it's not that I won't do this. I just won't do this at scale.
Yes, and I'll only do it in a way that's politically beneficial to me. You know what I mean? Because it would be it would be bad optics to do that to the Sagittarians as well. Anyways, we then continue with domestic policy talks we see going on. There are people that are voting, like they're doing sort of like shadow polls, like basically Rosalind's putting out feelers to see how Zarek's doing. Zarek's clearly gaining voters. He's still behind Wally, but he's gaining voters. And then Apollo goes up to Zarek and whispers in his ear, "I got Valance and you're next." So
which
Zarek doesn't really like. He doesn't say anything to.
Which, like, what was Apollo trying to accomplish with that?
Yeah, it's dumb to do.
It's very dumb. And again,
it's trying to intimidate him, but to what end? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the way that makes the most sense for Apollo's behavior is if he is just holding the world's biggest grudge against Zarek for what happened.
But that's never really expressed.
Yeah, but the show isn't really highlighting that as a motivation. But it's the only motivation that makes any sense, because otherwise a whole bunch of the stuff that he does, like, why the hell would you do that? What are you trying to accomplish? And the only way I can square it, at least in my head, is that it's not about accomplishing anything. He's just blinded by his own grudge.
Yes. Yeah, and the show doesn't make that clear, though. It's weird.
Yeah, no, again, I think the performance is fine and the framing is off.
Yeah. We then cut to Zarek at the bar with Ellen, and Zarek is behind the bar making his own drink. He says, "Why ask the bartender what's in it for him?" Again, he's living his values. I'm just saying, I'd vote for Zarek, you know? But yeah, Zarek sort of says, whatever the people want is fine by me. And Ellen sort of points out, is like, oh, everyone, I'm out for me, myself, and I. Everyone has an agency. What did I mean here? I don't remember what I write. But anyway, Zarek sort of points out, it's like, oh, you're a connected, well-informed woman. And she sort of acknowledges that she's, this wife of the XO and worth every bit. I forget exactly what I was saying here, but you basically connect with Ellen.
She's quasi-flirting with him, so...
Yeah, is exactly kind of what it is. But then, for the first time, Zarek acknowledges his a connection to Valance. He says, "I'm looking for a friend of mine named Valance." So he acknowledges to Ellen that he's looking for Valance.
Yeah, which also strikes me as odd.
Yeah, why tell Ellen?
Yeah, like... A dude basically told you that your friend is being held by the secret police for all intents and purposes. So you ask a dude's wife.
Yeah.
I understand that she's connected to somebody who you think might know, that being Ty, but that still feels like a leap.
Yeah. And then we cut over and Valance is dead. He has been killed by somebody and we don't know who.
Yep. There's a lot of blood.
We then cut to Baltar on the talk show, and he clearly is missing the limelight. He's thriving on the radio. He's like, he's talking against Zarek. He says, Zarek has never shouldered any responsibility for 20 years, things like that. So he's clearly on Rosalind's side of things to a degree, or at least anti-Zarek. And Rosalind's listening to all this while all of her advisors are talking, and she's like thinks Zarek has had Valance killed, Ty is saying that they have no evidence to tie him to the plot and things like that. But then Rosalind overhears, and I think it's notable that Baltar says this, and this is sort of what gets Rosalind sort of kind of really thinking about this, is Baltar says, "We must survive and we must survive. We must survive, and we must and will survive, and we will through the values that made our colonies great." So he's being very traditionalist in like upholding the system sort of viewpoint, and that's when
he would. The system did very well by him.
Yes, he would. But that's when Rosalind said, "I'm going to win this thing," and now she has to go back to the Cloud 9 to perform 2 unpleasant duties.
Dun dun dun.
So first unpleasant duty is she tells Wally to step down, asks him to step down for quote-unquote health reasons. And Wally seems upset by this. He says, hey, you're working for Adar, President Adar, you were always so quiet. You never seem to fit in with the white knuckles backstabbing politicians. I guess I was wrong. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even want the position in the first place. You know what I mean? And it's like, I could see it being like he didn't want the position in the first place. And then he kind of got invested in possibly being the vice president, and now is upset by it.
Time has passed.
But there's a missing scene. Yeah,
it's been like so far as I can tell, it's been a matter of hours.
Yeah, I think it's a maximum of 3 days is probably what it's been, because there was the 72 hours for nomination, so it's probably close. Like it's a maximum of like 2 or so days.
Yeah, get over it, dude.
Yeah, right. So yeah, but then Rosalind goes and meets Baltar in the bathroom. And you know, Baltar says, you know, I'm getting a real feel for politics. And she says, you're not voting for terrorists. And he says, no, I don't like terrorists. I'll be voting for your man, Gray. He's great. Which I did like, because acknowledging just how Blandy McBlanderson, Joe Biden-ass motherfucker this is. But then
Joe Biden, John Kerry, take your pick.
all
the middle of the road milquetoast people who they keep running.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, Rosalind points out, you're a popular man these days. It would be good to have your popularity and intellect on my side. And she sort of offers him the nomination of vice president. And he accepts. And then as Rosalind leaves, it turns out he's banging the reporter from before in the bathroom. And he says, now I'm gonna give you an exclusive.
Fucking jackass. I will admit it was kind of funny because Rosalind goes into this bathroom and she's like, Dr. Baltar, and he comes out of a stall, you know, zipping himself up, and you assume he was taking a shit or whatever. But then, as soon as Rosalind leaves, this woman comes out, disheveled hair, comes out of the same stall, and is like, wow. I'm like, okay, that is kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, Baltar's always good for a good laugh, you know. At least the show knows that what they have with him in terms of comedy. So
yes,
yeah. Anyways, we then cut to Apollo and Starbuck talking in a locker room, and you know, Apollo points out Zarek's too smart to try and take Rosalind out now. He'll wait and find a better opportunity. And then they start talking, and then they have a flirty thing where Starbuck, Apollo says, "Hey, do you ever wash your uniform?" And she's like, "Oh, when did you start caring about my hygiene?" You know, that sort of joking about that sort of thing.
Yeah. And she's like, "Hey, I clean up good."
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, we then cut to Rosalind, running the vote for vice president. And it seems the support shifted to Baltar. And it was very close, where it could have been a tie.
We actually know that it was. We don't see it. So
yeah.
So there's 12 delegates, and Zarek gets 6 votes, and then it's coming down to Baltar, and he's had 5. And you have the reporters going, if this ends in a tie, the president gets to cast the deciding vote.
Yes, which then Baltar wins.
And then we time jump to the victory party. So obviously it was a tie, and she got to break that, which I think is kind of pretty important to note, because that is a thin fucking margin that you are governing by. And we'll see how it pans out going forward, but you do have to wonder if the celebration party is a little tone deaf. It's you're acting like you won and you didn't. You
skated by on the skin of your teeth with a guy's popularity who you don't even really like.
Yeah, and you won on a procedural technicality. In terms of support, you do not have it. You have an even split. That's not good.
Yes. But at the party, we see Baltar has a lot of women. And Head 6 says we're going to do great things together. So there's some acknowledgement, whether or not she's real is up in the air, but that she wants and desires power, and him to have access to power. Just a reaffirmation. That's been a repeated beat anyway, so just a reaffirmation.
He's just gonna fail his way to the top.
I wish I had a sexy woman in my head telling me how to fail my way into power.
You don't?
I know.
I thought that was standard issue.
I wish.
Mine's a redhead.
Maybe it's a trans thing, I just made myself the sexy woman in my head, and then I don't get to fail my way up into power because I'm not seen as a dude anymore.
I mean, that's ultimately what we do. We become the sexy women in our own head, but that means we don't have her anymore.
Yeah,
it's the mediocre white men who keep her.
Yeah, is that what happens? Is it all the mediocre white men just have a sexy lady in their head helping them fail up to power?
They have the confidence as if they do.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Just go into my mind palace and get laid all the time. Anyways, we then see Apollo at the party, and he sees Starbuck, who did clean up real nice into a dress.
We see her from behind initially, and like her hair's been like floofed up a bit. I didn't recognize her from behind. I was like, oh yeah, dang, okay.
She does indeed clean up nice. And then she says, "Want to ask me to a dance? Just ask." He says clean up nice, and he says, "If you want to ask me to a dance, just ask." Me in a dress is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I liked that. I did enjoy that beat to a degree. So
yeah, it was cute.
Yeah,
I prefer the one that follows though.
Yeah. Well, we have Rosalind and Zarek first. I'm assuming you meant the one after that, but
yes.
Yeah, we have Rosalind and Zarek, and Rosalind says, "I won't be kissing you today." And Zarek sort of says, "I shave very close in anticipation." But he says, "There is a presidential election in 6 months, so I'm still coming for you, I guess." But then he leans in and says, "I didn't kill Valance. I wonder who did." So.
Yep.
Interesting moment there. But then we cut to Adama speaking to Rosalind, who's at the event, and he says, she says to him, "I thought you hated these things." And he's like, "Well, it's Colonial Day. I'm a patriot." And, Rosalind says, "You really are a patriot, aren't you?" Sort of kind of see him who he really is, very kind of straightforward in that way for the first time. And she explains, I went with Baltar because I figured the devil you know. And Adama sort of points out, politics, I guess, is as exciting as war and just as dangerous. But Rosalind points out, in politics, I think Adama points this out. He says, but in politics, you can get killed over and over and over again. And Adama says, well, you're still standing and I can dance. And then they go dance together.
That was cute. That was sweet.
Yeah. I liked all of this scene. And it kind of goes to show the two of them starting to see each other truly, and also rather than just their roles, and starting to have an appreciation for the shit that the other person has to deal with in politics or the military. So
yeah,
so getting a little bit of mutual appreciation there. We then cut to Ellen talking to Ty, and she says, "I got a luxury street on the Rising Star, so for them to celebrate." And Ty kind of pushes against this, but he's sort of like, all right, it's fine. I'll enjoy myself. It's all good. But then she sort of says, you might want to talk to a few people about your future. And it's sort of very clear that she's trying to position Ty into start getting in, like, politically maneuvering, even though Ty is not interested in that in the slightest.
Yep.
So.
Oh boy. Yeah, she's a lot.
Yep. But then we cut to Cylon occupied Caprica for our last bit. And Hilo and Tumor kiss as they are planning to, stage a, grab a ship. But as they're trying to sneak on board a ship, they're like Hilo's kind of on a ledge above a door. Out of the door comes out two sixes. And he sort of like stays quiet as they walk away. But then as they walk away, a second, or I guess third, if you want to count it, boomer comes out. And Hilo realizes, oh no, Tumor's a Cylon. And then Tumor shoots that boomer and kills her. But then Hilo runs away as Tumor runs after him.
Yep.
And that's how the episode ends. And it's like, oh, there's like flashbacks where like Hilo's like, oh no, everything I've known was a lie.
I finally realized the thing that I would have realized 3 weeks ago if I'd actually thought for 2 fucking seconds.
Yep. But yeah, Hilo now is aware that Tumor is a Cylon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, as a dramatic way to kind of reveal that to him, it's okay. It's just the fact that this this whole plot line has been so goddamn dragged out.
Yeah, this would have been fine if it had been an episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, frankly, it should have been. It should have been like, oh, the middle of the season, like, reveal. Oh, he's been alive the whole time, and here's what's been going on with him. And if we got it as an episode, it would have been decently fine.
Yeah. Condense all of this to one, maybe spread it across 2 episodes, maybe. But, like...
I get it. It's like one of those, like, well, we have the actor, so we need to justify paying him. But honestly, it feels like it would have been just smarter. It's like, if you want to bring him into the show, I'm not going to say what happens to him, but if you want to have him as a regular in the show after this point, like, get him as a regular from season 2
pay him
onwards.
as a guest star.
Pay him as a guest star for season 1, do 1 episode, and then it, like, saves you money, paces it better, and then you'll get him for season 2 or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Anyways. That is the end of the episode. I'm trying to think, do I want to do a spoiler minute? No, I'm not going to. There's nothing there's one thing. I'll do a spoiler minute. So for the next 60 seconds, I'm going to talk spoilers. So if you do not want spoilers for yourself, jump ahead 60 more seconds, just like Vera's going to do in real time, by giving me 60 seconds on the clock.
And go.
The only real thing that I want to point out is we never learn who killed Valance. It's implied to be Ellen. I had to go and look, like, did we ever learn this? Like, it's implied to be Ellen who has done it in this episode, and that's really the closest we ever get to an answer, which I guess theoretically then is like, oh, like, Zarek did want her killed. I even may tell Vera this. I think, just talking this out, it feels like I should, I don't even know. Yeah, I think it's just one of those weird things where it's like, it kind of doesn't really go anywhere, and I guess it kind of implies that Ellen killed him, so like Ellen's willing to do terrible things, and that Zarek did actually know the balance, and that Zarek was trying to kill Rosalind, which I don't like as a characterization, but I don't know if I should tell Vera all of that information. You know what I mean? It's like, it does confirm Zarek's characterization, but you know what it's one of those weird things, and I want to talk it out with Vera, but I don't necessarily know if I want to spoil her.
Time!
So here's... And this is what I was just talking about I'm going to express it to you, Vera. Okay. There's a piece of this that's like, I'll leave it to you, your choice here, where there's a piece of this story that I talked about in Spoiler Minute, but the spoiler is how the piece of this story does not go anywhere. And so it's like, do I tell you that or do I leave it? You know what I mean?
Honestly, it would free up some brain space for me to know that I can just not worry about something.
All right. The only thing to not worry about is we never learn who killed Valance. So that never comes back up again. So it kind of is implied that it's Ellen. It's never stated, but like that's the implication, I guess.
That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
At least, well, let me back up. For what I understand about her at present, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Mm-hmm. Maybe it makes sense in the greater context of her as a character, but right now, that makes no fucking sense.
I won't say if it makes sense within the greater context or not. I'll just say that's the implication that the episode gives, and it's the closest we'll ever get to a definitive answer on that. So.
Okay. Maybe they realize later, oh, nobody cares about the mystery of who killed this character that they'd never seen before and who barely had any screen time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just drop it.
Yeah. And the only thing I will say is it does, like, lend credence. I won't even say if this is the intended implication of just never coming back to it, but, like, by never coming back to it, the implication comes across as, like, oh, Zarek was trying to assassinate Rosalind, which wasn't 100% confirmed in this episode. And I don't think ever does, but never coming back to it and just leaving that implication on the table, that's kind of what's stated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. I don't buy the premise that Zarek was looking to kill Rosalind because...
Neither do I, yeah.
Because he wants to pull the system down. And he seems to understand it well enough to know that assassinating the head is not going to destroy the system, and it could well lead to exactly what he himself said, which is just a military takeover, because if she's gone, who's the next authority right now? Mm-hmm. It's the military. And even if he'd gotten the vice president position, I'm sorry. I have a hard time buying that people would just sit around and go, oh, right after this known terrorist became vice president, suddenly the president was assassinated. I don't think that would go over smoothly. I don't think he'd be allowed to just descend to power like that. And I think he knows that.
Yeah.
Like, given what, again, unless they're gonna like, oh, Jesus. Unless they're going to pull the whole twist of, no, he secretly just wants power and this is all bullshit, everything he's saying. Unless they pull that, which they better not. But unless they pull that, the idea of him having her assassinated goes completely against his interests.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, do I reveal this? Because it's like, I don't think the show even intends that reading, but it's what's left open. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's weird. Anyways,
this episode's weird. It's
not
bad, but it's weird.
I mean, getting into the overall feelings of the episode, like, yeah, that's my kind of impression of it too. Like, it displays some things well, and there's parts of it that I do like, particularly like Roslyn characterization and even Baltar's to a degree, and even Zarek's characterization too. It's just the episode does not seem to. It gives off Garibaldi effect of like, it does not seem to understand what it is doing, even if it is displaying these things well. The only character that feels like badly written this episode is overtly Apollo, but the framing of the episode is it's the framing of the episodes that's the issue, and the writing of Apollo that's the issue. Everything else in terms of like how characters are written and characterized are fine.
Yeah, and honestly, even Apollo, you don't have to change the way he's behaving. You just have to explain why he's like this.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit what I tend to think of him as, and you don't explain to me why this is the case. Like, there are explanations. I can headcanon some, but I shouldn't have to.
Yeah, it's just like stuff left out. It reminds me of like the way like Starbuck was acting in a few episodes ago of like why she didn't like want to like get out of the bed or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you could explain it, but the show never told us, so it just kind of is like, oh, yeah, I guess
you're
this
just
is
kind
who
of
she is. Or...
Yeah, you're just showing this character behave in a way that doesn't make sense to the way that I understand this character. So if you're telling me this is also part of who they are, you need to make that clear, because otherwise I feel like you just made a mistake.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of just better writing, like compared to a better writing thing of like Andor, where like there are things in Andor. I won't spoil people who haven't seen the season, but there are moments in Andor where like characters do actions, and it's left open to interpretation of why they did that action. This one isn't a major deal. Like, for example, a character Brasso in season 2, like, gets captured, and he, like, yells at this guy who is protecting him, and, like, gets captured by stormtroopers, yells at this guy who's protecting him, and it's left open to interpretation in the episode of, like, if he's doing that to protect the guy, to make it look to the stormtroopers if he's yelling at him, or if there was, like, the guy actually legitimately turned them in. But, like, that left implication kind of is an interesting implication, like, left open. That like, oh, it makes you think about who this character is and reassess them in an interesting way, whereas this just sort of leaves you with Apollo like, oh, I guess I don't understand his character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
like, and here's the funny thing. There are times that suddenly realizing you don't know a character as well as you thought can work, but the thing is, most of the examples that I can think of are actually from video games, where sometimes they do really interesting things with the player character, where you realize how many assumptions you made just because you were in control of them, that you knew what their deal was, and then they do something independent of you, and you're like, oh, well, shit, okay. But like in a show or in a movie, if you're not going to play it as like a notable twist in or turn in characterization, then it can just feel like they're out of character, even if they're not. Because even if there is an understanding of his character that makes this make sense, I don't know it.
Yep. So yeah, there's parts of this episode that I like, but yeah, generally the framing in Apollo generally is bad. So
yeah.
Yep. But yeah. Anything else to say, Vera?
No, I don't think so.
Alrighty then, stuff time.
Stuff. If you want to find my stuff, Council of Geeks is on YouTube. And new videos every Saturday, plus reviews of Doctor Who. That's still going on at the time that this comes up. And you can also find Council of Geeks on Patreon. That is what supports all of this, including this podcast that you are currently listening to. And you may, in fact, be listening to it on the Break Room of Geeks, which is my secondary channel where I have been reviewing every episode of the new season of Black Mirror and The Last of Us second season and Andor second season. There's too much goddamn stuff coming out. Plus whatever else I have read, listened to, played, or watched lately. And then there is, of course, the spicy stuff.
Of course, the spicy stuff.
And for that, you can look for Vera Wild. Wild is spelled W-Y-L-D-E. And you can find some delightful things on YouTube, Blue Sky, TikTok, Clips for Sale, Many Vids, and OnlyFans.
And you can...
and also technically Fansly, but I don't remember to update that one that much.
You can find me at Jesse Gender on YouTube. That's where I do my video essay style of stuff. Recently, I just released a video on Babylon 5. So if you're a fan of Jumpgate, you can check out that it's a short little video. I got some bigger ones coming that I'm working on at the moment. So hopefully they'll be here in the near-ish future. I am also on... I jumped out. I also have a secondary channel called Jesse Gender After Dark, where I do news, reviews, reactions, still reviewing all the same shows that Vera's doing currently. I also have a Patreon that helps me pay the bills if you want to support me there. I'm also going to be releasing, just to let people know, the next video that I'm doing is a really big video, and it's just taking me a lot of time to edit, and I'm working with other editors. I'm going to release part of it, like the first half of it for patrons, in the next few weeks probably. So if you want to get a video early, you can check that out there. And also get your name in videos, all that other stuff, extra videos, things like that. I am on Blue Sky, is the social media platform I'm on, and I'm also on Nebula, which is the social media platform that not pays my bills, that hosts my movie Identities, which you can go and check out, as well as the show Subliminal that I will be directing an episode of later this summer that will be coming out later this year. That's everything. I kind of switched up the order of stuff, and it screwed me all up.
See, I can switch it up. I'm very good at being a switch. You should remember your place.
I try, Vera. I try. Go to hell. Anyways.
You just remember that your place is on your knees and everything will be fine.
Oh, I see how it is. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You do see how it is. It's a good view from down there, isn't it?
Occasionally, not always. Shut up. Anyways, I'm going to bid you all a live long and prosper on that note.
Be seeing you.